In the aftermath of World War II, as the dust of conflict settled across Europe, the continent found itself divided between two emerging superpowers. On one side stood the capitalist West, led by the United States and its allies. On the other, the communist East, dominated by the Soviet Union. Amid this growing tension, a hidden war began, a secret war fought not on battlefields but in shadows. At the heart of this clandestine conflict was Operation Gladio. Few people have heard of Gladio, and those who have often regarded it as a conspiracy theory. But Gladio was real. It was a secret stay-behind army set up under NATO's guidance during the Cold War. The official purpose? To prepare for the possibility of a Soviet invasion of Western Europe. If such an invasion occurred, these secret units would activate behind enemy lines, carrying out sabotage, intelligence gathering, and guerrilla warfare. But as time went on, Gladio's mission evolved, and in some cases, it became something far more dangerous. The origins of Gladio date back to the late 1940s. With memories of Nazi occupation still fresh, Western powers feared a similar fate if the Soviet Union expanded westward. To prevent this, intelligence agencies, most notably the CIA and Britain's MI6, began setting up secret resistance networks in various European countries. These networks were composed of trusted individuals, often ex-soldiers or intelligence officers, trained in sabotage, surveillance, and unorthodox warfare. They were supplied with weapons and equipment hidden in secret arms caches scattered throughout the countryside. The idea was simple. If the Soviets invaded, these operatives would be activated to resist from within. The name Gladio comes from the Latin word for a short Roman sword, the gladius. While Gladio specifically referred to the Italian branch of this stay-behind network, similar operations existed across Europe. From France to Germany, from Belgium to Greece, each country had its own codename, its own version of the network, but all were linked through a central NATO command under the watchful eyes of the CIA. For years, these secret armies remained hidden, their existence known only to a select few in military and intelligence circles. But the true controversy began when evidence emerged suggesting that Gladio and its counterparts may have been involved in domestic political manipulation, false flag operations, and even acts of terrorism. In countries like Italy, Belgium, and Turkey, horrific attacks took place. Bombings in public squares, shootings, and assassinations. And in the aftermath, blame often fell on far-left or communist groups. But investigators and journalists later uncovered disturbing patterns. In Italy, for example, a wave of right-wing terrorism in the 1970s and 1980s, known as the Years of Lead, shocked the nation. One of the most infamous incidents was the 1980 bombing of the Bologna railway station, which killed 85 people. Initial blame was placed on leftist radicals, but later investigations pointed to neo-fascist groups, some of whom had alleged ties to Gladio operatives. The theory, supported by some former intelligence insiders, was that elements within the Gladio network were not only preparing for a potential Soviet invasion, but were also actively working to prevent the rise of communism or socialism through any means necessary, even if that meant manipulating public opinion through fear. This idea came to be known as the strategy of tension: create chaos, provoke fear, and push the public to support stronger, more authoritarian measures to restore order. In 1990, the existence of Operation Gladio was officially confirmed by Italian Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti. Speaking before the Italian parliament, he acknowledged the presence of the secret army, sparking outrage across the country. Other European governments, caught off guard, were forced to respond. Some claimed they had been unaware of Gladio's presence within their borders. Others denied any wrongdoing. But questions remained, many of them unanswered to this day. What made Gladio especially controversial was not just its secrecy, but its alleged connections to undemocratic activities. In Belgium, a series of brutal attacks by the so-called Brabant killers in the 1980s left dozens dead. Some investigators suggested links to Gladio or similar networks, although definitive proof has never been made public. In Turkey, a network known as the counter-guerrilla is believed to have been involved in political violence and crackdowns on left-wing groups. Again, ties to Gladio-like structures were suspected. Even within NATO, The existence of these secret armies posed ethical and legal questions. How much control did governments really have over these networks? Were they tools of defense or mechanisms of internal suppression? The line between security and subversion began to blur. Despite official confirmations and parliamentary inquiries, many documents related to Gladio remain classified. The full extent of its operations, the identities of its operatives, and the details of its actions are still shrouded in mystery. Some argue that the program was necessary, a Cold War insurance policy against a very real threat. Others see it as a violation of democratic norms, a shadow war waged not only against external enemies, but also against internal dissent. Today, Gladio stands as a reminder of the lengths to which governments and alliances will go in the name of national security. It raises difficult questions about transparency, accountability, and the balance between freedom and control. Was it a justified defense strategy or a covert campaign that undermined the very values it claimed to protect? As we look back on Operation Gladio, we're reminded that the Cold War was not just fought with tanks and missiles, but with secrets, lies, and shadow networks. The story of Gladio is not just a tale of espionage. It is a warning, a lesson in how the pursuit of security can sometimes lead us down a darker path.